Okay, Kerry, you coming back on?
I am.
Okay. Anybody got any questions to start with? Or happy, good memorial or something? So, okay, you want to go ahead and say a few words?
Yeah, I'll start, and I'll tell you about a quick story. What I did was I went to the IRS building office with a guy, and when we got there, they asked me who I was, and I told them, and then I told them I was so-and-so's attorney, and we just went on, and I told him that if he had any questions, that I would be doing all the answering. That the client would not talk. He was going to stand mute because he's a dumbass. He's an idiot, and so I was going to do all of his talking. And so the agent says, "Oh, so you're his attorney?" I said, "You can't hear? Here, I'll say it again." So I took my hands and I was doing sign language, telling him that I was his attorney. And the guy says, "That's not funny." I said, "Well, you're the one that can't hear." So immediately when we started out, I got under his skin right away quick. And so he says, "Okay, do you have any credentials?" I said, "Sure do." And I handed him the Internal Revenue Service's own, I forget, 3822 form, whatever it is. It's a PO attorney, power of attorney. So I told him that I was his PO attorney. And he says, "Well, that's not an attorney." I said, "Well, that's your form." He signed it, I signed it, we've had it notarized, and it's been approved. That is, I am an attorney according to your own definition. So he never even asked me a question about the guy. What he was trying to do is overrule that I'm not an attorney. So when he was all done, I started in on, I put together a packet that's got enough stuff in it that'll be, I can talk for 3 hours without ever turning the page. But so anyway, so we're going over it, and he finally said, "That's it, we're done." He said, "Don't say another word." So we got up and walking out all the way to the door where they let me out. My jaws were clapping. "Boy, look at this floor. This is unbelievable. Wow, you guys got a copper elevator door. Look at the size of this bill. What in the world? I wonder how many people work, how many," and I just went on and on and on and on and on and on. Well, before we left, the agent swung at me. He tried to knock me out. He tried to punch me because he said I was irritating. And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm not being irritating. What I'm trying to do is answer your questions. But the questions you're asking, you have no ability to ask. You're asking me a question to answer for my client, and the question that you're asking him has nothing to do with taxes or this meeting." And so anyways, that's how we did it. We were there maybe, by the time they got us in, sat down, and back out, we were there maybe 5 minutes, but 2 minutes of it was walking out, and I mean my gums were just clapping the whole way, and I mean it was just nonsense. Look at the windows. Hey, are those windows bulletproof? Man, I wonder if somebody jumped off the roof, because they had a big tundra in the middle of it. Man, do you think that the airflow here would blow them back in? And I just went on and on and on. And anyways, to say the least, we haven't heard back from them. So anyways, does anybody have a question that I can start with? That would be nice to take this in your direction. And if you don't, then I'll throw a few things at you, and then we'll call it a night.
Nobody got any questions?
Okay, what we're going to do then, if you have, just go *6, and what that will do is that will open it up, and then when you talk, we'll hear you. What I'm going to try to stress is, for those of you that are for the first time here, we're going to have you go to the tax court and get your order, because we're using that, and it hasn't hurt us yet. And what it does is it helps a lot, because we're able to use it. We may not use it today, but we will be able to use it. And I've made a couple of changes in the way I'm doing some stuff, because they don't even bother with us anymore. But what's happening is, Ed was talking before we started recording. There's a lot of people that did OIDs, did 1041s, did some other kind of returns, and and so now they're having trouble with the banks and with getting the checks cleared, which is now that I see is fine. But if you're in trouble over it, there's a real easy solution, and the solution is, it's real simple. The problem we're having is, you have to understand what you're doing, and don't let somebody talk you into getting $100 million when that doesn't make any sense. And so the problem is not the form; it's the way it's filled out. And what they're saying is, the forms are filled out incorrectly, so now they're making their adjustment, even though the check is cut and you get the check. And I'll make a recommendation. What we're doing here is, when you get a check, we go to a check cashing place, ask them if they would cash a treasury check, and in a lot of cases they will. But you can't expect the guy to cash a check for $30 and it's $200,000. Give him 10%. It would be better to get $180,000, give him $20,000, get the $180 in cash, and then you got it. But again, that's just what we're finding out. You know, if you get a $200,000 check and you put it in the bank and the bank takes it or seizes it or freezes it, it doesn't do you any good. Go to a check cashing place and tell them, say, hey, look, I'm going to cash a check here. Here's the check. It's a treasury check. And there's a place online. You can go online and they'll tell you that it's good. And he'll cash it for you. Give him 10%. So you pay him $20,000. Now, see, it's worth him doing it for you. And there's some things that we're just poking in the dark, and they seem to be working really well. We have a couple of people that got some pretty sizable checks, and the bank called the IRS telling them, and the IRS said, no, the check is counterfeit, to get rid of it. Well, what we're doing is, if you go on the United States Treasury's website, I'm not sure where it's at, I found it once, but there's a thing in there, or call them on the phone, they'll tell you where to go. There is a website, and what you do is you put put in the check number and the amount and who it's made to, and it'll pop back and tell you whether it's been paid or not. And where the problem they're having is, the bank is taking the check saying, well, the IRS said it was a counterfeit check. When we go online, we put our name in it, how much, check number, and the Treasury is saying that check is cleared. So what's happening is, they're taking the check, sending it to the IRS, and the IRS is cashing it. So what we're doing is, we're making the bank liable for it. And how we're doing that is, we're making the bank liable because how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. Now, if you're interested in how to do it, call me and I'll tell you, or ask a question. I'm just not going to lay it all out, because it would take a few minutes to do that. But if you're interested in how to get the check and cash a large check or whatever, if you ask a question, we'll try to help you out. And the other thing that we're doing is the IRS is just becoming, they don't know what to do. Like I said, one of them swung at me, and when I went to court the other day, the judge said I was irritating, and he threw the gavel at me. And so I know I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job the best I can. So if you guys have any questions or anything that I can help you with, I'm offering my time to you. For those of you that haven't met me or talked to me yet, I'm not very bright, but what I have is I have a very unique way or a different way to look at things. I don't challenge the IRS that I'm a non-resident alien, so they can't do whatever it is. So I challenge their jurisdiction, and I challenge it on 100% on everything. So, and the jurisdiction seems to work even in traffic. On traffic, it works for me anyways. And so we've got some tools that we've put together that just, it's crushing them. It's absolutely crushing them. So for those of you that live in Texas that are here tonight, I come up with I can send you a driver's license through the mail or email it to you. You print it out and you're good. So if you're interested in that, you let me know and we'll help you with that. So does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Corey and Ed.
You're not talking to me. My name's Terry, but go ahead.
Terry. Okay, so IRS went after my employer and froze the W-4. I then sent them the U.S. tax court order, but now they're continuing the conversation about some Internal Revenue Code, IRC Section 3402 and 3403, Title 26. And so good. I'm about to take them to the claims court.
You just won. You just won your case. Are you in front of a computer?
Yes.
All right. If you will, I'm going to show you what it says and I'm going to show you how we're fighting this. Okay, if you will, go on Google or whatever you do and put in the 1040 instructions, and I want to show you how to use that, and I'm going to have you read it. And after you read it, there's a little high pitch and beeping noise. Okay.
Sorry, 1040 what?
Just the 1040 instructions. And I'm going to show you, you're going to be able to use their own 1040 instructions and make the company null and void the lock-in letter. And you're going to be able to do it through the IRS because I'm going to show you how. How we're doing it. Okay. Now go to page 100. And do you know how to eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Okay. Now the problem that we're having is we're trying to take too big of a bite, and then that gives them something to argue. When you get to page 100, let me know you're there, and I'm going to show you.
I'm here.
All right. Okay. Now what's the top of the page? What does it say? What's the name of that page?
Disclosure, Privacy Act, and Paperwork Reduction
Beautiful.
Act notice.
Okay, now you're gonna tell them according to the Privacy Act, Paper Reduction Act, and you just tell them that now. On the left-hand column, take your eyes down, back and forth until you see the number 6001, and then I want you to let me know you found it, and then I'm going to have you read it, just a couple of lines. All right, now I want you to read it slow so I can stop you along the way. Go ahead and read that sentence.
Our legal rights to ask
Stop. Hold on. Who's our?
I bet IRS.
I bet you will be 100% right. So let's read it that way so you understand what it's saying. This is how you're going to write it. You're going to put our, parentheses, IRS. But don't just say the IRS's legal right to ask. Now start that way and let's read it.
Got it. IRS's legal right to ask for information is Internal Revenue Code Section 6001, 6011, and 6012A, and their regulations.
Okay, and their regulations. Now, what did that just tell you?
And that's what they use to ask me for information.
No. Read it again. Read it again.
IRS's legal right to ask for information.
So those three sections is what?
The IRS's legal right.
IRS's legal. Okay. That's right. That's their legal right. What's the opposite of legal right? What would be the opposite of legal?
Illegal.
Oh, okay. Now, let's just hold for a minute. If I asked you to take 55 pounds of heroin, put it in your car and drive it to me, would you do it?
No.
Why?
It's illegal.
All right. So, in other words, 6001, 6011, 6012A, and the regulation, that's their legal right. Anything else they say would be a felony, because if you get caught with heroin, it's a felony. You go to prison. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Now, I want you to tell me what they said to your company. Tell me what the letter said that you read earlier. Tell me what the letter said.
This letter is in response to your inquiry asking for information about the legal authority supporting the IRS withholding compliance program. This letter contains citations, etc., of what laws and regulations give us authority for the withholding compliance program. These are Internal Revenue Code IRC, Section 3402, 3403.
Stop right there. 3402 and 3403. Tell me what they just did.
Oh, they used a different set of codes.
So that's illegal. They have just now committed a felony. In other words, they said to you, the reason we're holding your money because we're selling cocaine, we're selling heroin. Okay, what they just said was illegal. Do you see that or not?
Yes, I do.
Okay, there's your letter. According to them, you said this. This is incorrect. This is right. Now let's finish reading that sentence that you were reading and their regulations.
Section and Treasury regulations, Section 31.34.
No. Go back to the 1040 instructions.
Oh, okay.
And their regulations.
And their regulations, yes. They say that you must file
Stop. Hold on. Who's they?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's read see, that's why we're doing. That's why I take the time to do this. It says 6001, 6011, 6012A, and their regulations. They say.
Oh.
Well, then.
Okay, got it. Then. And their regulations.
So who's they now?
Those numbers, 6001.
That's exactly right. So 6001, 6011, and 6012A, and the regulations is the law. That's the legal right. That's the law. Now let's see what they tell you have to do. Now let's finish reading that.
They say that you must file a return or statement with us.
Stop. Hold on. No, don't go so fast. So you have to file something. What do you have to file according to the law? What do you have to file?
A return or statement.
Okay. So a return or statement, they're equal. So in other words, they're telling you under 33, whatever they're telling you, that's a felony. So they've now committed a felony. And it says you must file a return or a statement. Can you give me a statement right now?
Yeah, it's a sunny day today in Texas.
Okay, there, all you have to do is put on a piece of paper. It's a sunny day today in Texas. There's your statement. You're good for the year 2020. You've already done your statement. That's what it says. That's all they can talk about. If they talk about anything else, what I'm saying, here's what I said. Let's go back to what I opened with. When we got to the IRS office, we did our little, here I'm his attorney kind of a thing. The guy said something, and I said, hold it, let's be on the right page. The first thing out of my mouth was, anything you say can and will be used against you. Go ahead. The man nutted up. The man it was like he bit his tongue off. He couldn't say another word. So what we're going to do, if you would like to, you can tell them, under those codes that they used, that's illegal. Anything you say can or will be used against you on the grounds. What you're saying is illegal. Doesn't that make sense? So what they're telling you to do, so what they're telling you to do is illegal. They can't tell you to do what they're telling you to do because their own booklet tells you they can't do it. Now, can I ask you another question while you're here?
Yes.
Do you file a 1040?
No, I haven't.
Okay, now wait. I don't care. Now, here's where the problem that I'm having a lot of problems with. Why don't you file a 1040? Why?
I'm a non-filer per that court order.
Okay. See, you just said wait a minute. Would you read what you just read? You have to file a return or statement. So yeah. I don't file a 1040. Why? Because the 1040 instruction booklet says I can't. It says I have to file a return or statement. I do a statement. See, now I can defend without being on defense. Does that make sense?
It does make sense to me since I've kind of heard you before. But when they tell their employer to freeze the W-4, a freeze W-4, it means not only they take the tax now, but they do not allow you to correct errors or submit a different W-4.
Okay, so what you need to do then, that you need to now, hopefully to keep your company out of it, write a letter to the IRS where they set it to that person saying, you have made a gravest error. What you have done by using that section, 3201 or whatever it was, that's illegal. That's illegal. What you're doing is you're committing a fraud. You're using fraud as a legal tool. And then take that section and put it in just like that. Your legal right is, so because it's not under 6001, 6011, or 6012A in the regulations, you have no choice. There's no options. You must send the company a updated telling them that I am an exempt W-4, or say I will use everything in my power, everything that's available to me, included but not limited to a lawsuit. Then what you're going to do, is we're going to use what you just said against them. And then what will happen is you'll file a complaint with the, what is it called, TIGNA. File a complaint with the United States Attorney General. File a complaint in Washington, D.C. Plus you have, in other words, we have to, and what you do is you tell them what they're doing is Agent so-and-so is saying. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them out of the weeds. They're playing in the weeds. In other words, they're going to your company, and your company is doing what they say. So go to the company if you have to, and be nice. Hey, why are they doing this? Show me what they're saying. If the company will share that with you, you'll have them dead to rights, because the company will get a letter saying that they have to seize of the maximum plus $400, whatever. In other words, they have to take more than they have to take because you're violating something. Once you get that person's name, the IRS's agent's name, you'll have an address. Now we have somebody we can go after, and we just constantly beat on them. And what we're doing is we're hammering on them. You see, we're not saying I'm a non-filer. Now, have you seen? Ed sent you a bunch of paper there. If you open up there, there's a PDF in there that says 2358C. If you open that and read it, you'll see why I say that. Anybody on here tonight that got the email from Ed, there's a whole bunch of files that he sent, a bunch of Word documents and a bunch of PDFs. On the PDF, it says 2358. If you'll open that and let's read it, and I'll show you why I do it this way. Ma'am, have I helped you? Have I answered your question?
Yes, I do have a defense now.
See? Okay, there you go. That's what you'll have to do. Now, I want to ask you this, and this is how we do it. If I poke you in the right eye with my left index finger and I bury my finger in your eye socket up to the knuckle, will that hurt?
Yes.
Okay. Ed, would it hurt Ed?
Yes.
No.
No, it would.
See? So now, you defended something that you can't defend, and that's what we're doing. In other words, the answer would be, I don't know. Hurt who? Once would it hurt you? Yes. Now you see now you can defend that because I can bring 500 people to court and ask them, if I poke you in the eye, will it hurt? All 500 are going to say, no, I didn't feel a thing. But yet you're going to say, but it hurt. See, that's how we're answering it. That's our defense. The defense that I'm bringing to you is, would it hurt? I don't know. See? Now, can I ask you one more question, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. What color is a red shirt?
Red.
Okay. See, again, I'm colorblind. I only see gray. So what color would it be to me?
Gray.
See, you just said it was red. See, now I've now got you in a position where you're defending a red shirt is red. Well, it's not red to somebody who's colorblind. If I don't have my glasses on, I can't see the color. If I'm in a dark room and somebody has a red shirt on, I can't see it. See, there's so many scenarios. The only way you can answer that is red shirt to who, and who's wearing it, where are they at. See, if you're out in the sun and you're looking directly into the sun, you may not be able to see the shirt. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to help you get a defense that you're not on defense. You're defending yourself on offense.
Got it.
So, okay, if you need help with that, get with Ed, and he'll get with me, and I'll help you. If you want my help, I'm not soliciting you, and I don't give legal advice. I do not give legal advice. But what we can do is we can be very nice and kind to your company and give them a way out by showing them what they're saying. See, the first thing you do is ask your company if that's who got the letter from the IRS. You would like to see the letter. That way you've got an address where it came from, because if you live in Texas, I live in Texas, I'll get a letter from St. Louis. Well, I can't get in the car and drive down there. That's part of their stuff. If you live in Seattle, you might get a letter from Tallahassee. See, in other words, it's difficult because you're chasing your tail. I don't do that. What I try to do is go straight to the source. Let me see what the company has. Now I have a name, at least an address, and something I can address. Now I got a time frame. So what seems to help me, instead of saying, you do what I say or I'm going to sue you. Well, first of all, who are you going to sue, what court, and all that? So what I'm going to do is the court can only see facts and evidence. So we're going to get you as many facts and evidence so that like you said, you get an elephant one bite at a time. If we can get you 500 bites on your side, when you go there, you won before you got there. They can't rule no other way.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason we're real successful.
And I also need a driver's license too. So I'll contact that.
If you will, I'll show you what I'm doing, and it frustrates them to no end. But what we're trying to do is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not telling you to go out there and beat your chest and arm yourself. That's not what I'm doing. I'm asking you to do whatever you normally do. Just keep doing it. But make sure you understand it. Now, are you married, ma'am?
No.
Okay, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to prove that you are.
Can't.
Oh, so you can't. Why can't you prove you're married?
Because I'm not.
There you go. See that fits in. Okay, can you prove you're not married? Yes. Why? Because you're not. So what they're saying is, company do so-and-so because they can't say that. So what we have to do is we have to go to the company, ask them to share that with you. Now, we have something. We're not going to ask them to tell them you're wrong because I'm a Texian. I was born in Puerto Rico or the 10 Mile Square. Title 26 has not been enacted into law. None of that really matters to me. What matters to me is 6001, 6011, 6012A and their regulations. See, now, if they ask you anything outside of those three things, they've admitted violating the law. It's illegal. See, so now that we have illegal, how are they going to say, well, that ain't what it says? Oh, well, then give me my money back until we go to court and figure it out. See, all this does, these are more bites for you. Once we hit the court with the lawsuit, once we do that, we have so many bites on our side that nobody wants to show up. Even the IRS doesn't show up. So the judge just gives us a default judgment because nobody showed up. Then we go in and clean house. Now, if I hit you with a baseball bat on the back of your head, would it hurt?
Please don't.
I won't, but would it hurt?
Theoretically, yes. Depending how
Ed,
hard it is.
No, wait a minute. You said it would hurt. Ed, would it hurt you?
No, it wasn't hurting me. Was it supposed to?
See, the answer is who hurt who. See, hurt you. Yes, now you've got a defense. See, you're defending something. You're going to say, well, it would hurt me like the Dickens. I'll bring Ed in. I'll subpoena Ed in, put him on the stand, swear him in. Ed, if I hit her in the head, would it hurt? Well, no. Now, the jury heard you saying yes and him saying no and me saying no. See, we can't fight. You can't argue the same argument on both sides of the coin. You can't flip a coin and it be heads and tails. It's going to be heads or it's going to be tails. It can't be both. And see, what you're trying to do is we're trying to argue it because it's easier. Well, I just go ahead and the way I think about it is I tell them, see, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So the first thing to do is call your company payroll, write them a nice letter, do not be ugly with them, and just get the letter that the IRS or whoever sent it. That way we have an address, what they said, and then using what you read tonight, that's going to be our driving force. See, now, what's going to happen is if they don't release it, then we're going to tell them, okay, if you don't release it, see, we're giving them every opportunity to come around. Then when we go to court, we're going to say, well, they're deliberately using fraud as a legal tool. Now, they can never say they didn't because they're not going to answer it. So we're going to be able to walk them right off the cliff. Does that help you at all?
Yes, I'm totally clear. Yes, thank you.
All right. Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Because I would like to try to help you where I can, instead of instead of going in here telling you what we're doing or how we're doing it, you know, I don't want you to sit there and say, yeah, well, it's easy to say, you can't prove it. Well, I'll try to prove whatever it is you want me to prove. I'll do my best. Okay, does anybody have a question?
Come on, folks.
Okay.
Hello?
I guess. Hello?
Yes.
I have a question. I did my court order, but I haven't received it yet. But I would like to know more about the driver's license. Could you tell more about that?
Okay. Are you in Texas by any chance?
Yes, I'm in Dallas, Texas. I've spoken to you before.
Yes, I'm in Dallas also. If you will, go here. Ed, do you have those 5 cases? You can maybe email them to her. In fact, I'll read it to you. Let me read you what it says. What I've done is I printed this on a 3x5 card. And what I do is I keep, let me find it here. What I do is I keep it on a 3x5 card, and I have it laminated. And what it does is it allows me, and I keep my passport with me because I don't need a Social Security number on my passport. And so what happens is, this is what I give them. If I can find it here, I'm looking for it real quick on my computer. Maybe I can just go get it. All right. Oh, wait, here we go. Let me go here. Start again. All right, let me see if I can find it real quick here. Anyway, what that does is there's 5 cases, and it says there's no such thing known as a driver license to the law. The state of Texas does not recognize any law that makes a man have a driver's license. There's 5 of those. I put 3 on one side and 2 on the other, and that's what I use, and I laminated them. I keep them in my truck, and then and that's how I keep them in my passport so that I give that to them first, and then when they ask me for it, what happened was I was giving them my marriage license. I had it laminated because they always say license and registration. I give them my marriage license. Then it created such a stink that the whole state now they never ask for a license anymore. They ask for a driver's license, and it's just created a real stink bomb for them. And if I can find it here real quick, I'll read it to you. But what that does is it creates. See, now I can, unless the attorney is unless the officer is an attorney, he's making a legal determination that negatively, I don't have to talk about nothing else anymore. See, I just talk about what the law says. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, I may have gone over this the last time, but if anybody's interested in getting a checking account without a Social Security number, I've had I'm a little over 95%. We've done about 40 or 50 of them, and we've only missed once. And it was the first one I did because I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just a theory at first. Now it's no longer a theory. But if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll tell you my theory. And you don't have to. Remember, I don't give legal advice, okay?
Yes, I'm interested in it as well.
All right. Have you ever been to the bank and ever tried to get a checking account?
I've tried to do it without the social. Some banks work with you, some don't. They still want to argue with you, and I took the code in, And one bank just flat out refused me.
Okay, see, okay, here's how I do it. Let me tell you how I do it. I'm not giving legal advice. I take the First Amendment of the Constitution and I print it. Then I take the Texas Constitution and I print it, the same section. And what it says is, I have a freedom of religion, and the government cannot make any laws that abridges my freedom of religion. So what I do is I go in, and the first thing I do, again, I do stupid stuff to them. I'll go in and sit down, and I'll say, well, I'm looking for a checking account. They'll say, oh, come on in here. And they'll say, well, just for small talk, what do you need a checking account for? And I'll say, well, so I can write checks. But before we go, does this bank have a legal department? They always say, well, yeah. Okay, good. Is it local, or is it in this bank, or where is it? It depends on the bank. It could be, and they might use a law firm locally. They'll tell me, then they'll ask me, my name, and I'll give it to them, and then I'll say, so how do I get a hold of that legal department? They might say, well, why? I say, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I just want to make sure that if I do need them, I feel real good about using this bank. So what ends up happening is I'll get the legal department, the head attorney, I'll get as much of that information up front that I can. I write it down. That way they give it to me, and they give it to me really nice. Then they'll say to me, Social Security number. I'll say, oh, well, I can't give that to you. Or the first thing I'll say is, why do you need that? That way I have a reason. Almost without fail, almost every time they'll say, well, our bank policy says you have to have one. So then I say, oh, well, I can't give you one because my religion, and then that's when I share with them the freedom of religion of the First Amendment and the freedom of religion of Texas. Then I say, because my religion believes that the Social Security is part of the mark of the beast, and we're forbid under all circumstances to use it. Then I shut my mouth because they already told me it's the bank policy. So if I have to leave there without it, I've already got the legal department's number, who the head attorney is, and I write them a nice little letter. And basically, here's what the letter says. Dear Billy Bob, Chief Attorney, is it your policy of your bank to write a bank policy in direct violation of my freedom of religion? And then I send it to them. Guess what they write back always and say? What do you think they say?
No, it's not.
There it is. No, it's not. Now, see, there's my one bite at a time. Then I go back and instead of going, okay, you sons of bitches, I go back to that person and say, oh, I went to your bank on or about such and such a day, on or about such and such a time. I went into the bank to open an account. Your bank won't open the account because of your policy, and my religion clashed. And when I told them that, the bank said, bye. So they're telling me your policy is diametrically opposed to my religion, and you said it isn't. So are you lying to me, or are they lying to me? What do you think they say next?
They'll go ahead and open the account for you.
Ain't that something?
Yes.
Ain't that something? See, now, like I said, not everything rolls over for me, just rolls over for me. A lot of times I have to work at it. Or they'll come back and he might say, well, what did the bank say? Then I'll tell them, see, here we go. I'm going to get another bite of the pie. Then I'll write them back and say, well, your policy, I'm not going to tell them. They said, see, because the Social Security, they'll fight me for it. So I'll say, no, I talked to the manager of the bank, And the bank said their policy would not allow me to open an account there because of my religion. That's a true statement. That's an absolute true statement. Then I mail it back. Then they say, what bank said it? Then I write them back and I say, your bank. Well, what branch? Well, what difference does it make what branch? You told me your policy would not ever be written to violate my religion. When I went to get an account in your bank refused me to get an account on the grounds my religion diametrically opposed your policy. Again, you said that wouldn't happen. I'm going to use everything in my ability, included but not limited to, a lawsuit against the branch of the bank that you represent on the grounds your policy violates my religion and they will not allow me to bank there. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So what happens, what it ends up doing is how do I say it? I don't go in there and say, well, you sons of bitches, according to the so-and-so, I don't have to have a Social Security number. I don't need that. They don't need to give it to you. See, I don't let my belief tell them. I let them tell me. My whole story is I'm going to ask. I always ask. See, I ask, can I open an account here? Why, of course. Wow, cool. Why would you ask? Well, I just want to make sure. See, do you guys have do you see what I'm doing? I'm building the groundwork so that when I have to slug them, I can. Now, I want to ask you a question, ma'am. You rob a bank with a .50 caliber, fully automatic machine gun. I rob a bank with a hammer. Who goes to jail?
Me.
Really? Why wouldn't I go to jail? Isn't robbing a bank illegal?
We both would, yes.
But that's not what you said. See, in other words, just because I used a hammer that's not an illegal tool, that's how I think everything through. That's just the way I do it. So if the bank has a policy that says you can't have a checking account without a Social Security number, that's what they're going to push. So if we go in and push back against it, they're going to push back. I don't push back. See, I go in there and I get as much information from them as I can, so that when they come to that part, well, why would you want that? Well, see, the other thing that I print is I print Regulation Z. Regulation Z is Truth in Lending. Under the Truth in Lending, there is the word Social Security number doesn't even appear. The other thing that I take with me is I take the Patriot Act. I have the Patriot Act printed out in a real nice little folder. It says right on the front, United States Patriot Act. In the Patriot Act, there's nothing about the Social Security number. So that way, if I need them, well, that's a Patriot Act. I hand it to them. Would you show it to me in here? Well, according to our policy, I don't have their policy. So what I do is I push back against them in an area that I can win. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, where do you live? Do you live in Texas?
Yes, I live in Arlington, Texas.
Okay. In the Dallas area where I live, we wear belt buckles on our belts. Do you wear belt buckles on your belts in Arlington?
Yes.
How do you get the buckle on the fan belt? I'm having trouble with that. Would you tell me that?
No, because I don't know. See
what you did? You're now defending in a negative position. Right?
Yes.
Okay. See, I won't do that, and I'm going to try to help you to where you won't do that either. So, do you file a 1040, ma'am?
No, I do not.
Why?
Because the 1040, The 1040 form says I don't have to.
It forbids me to. See, isn't that an easy argument?
Yes.
Would you rather argue that, or no, I don't have to because I'm a non-resident. I live in Arlington. I'm under 5 foot. You see all of this stuff you're saying when you're in front of the jury and the jury's getting ready to put you in jail because you don't follow willful failure to file. well, according to my belief, I believe I don't have to. You got 12 people there that have to. So, do you follow 1040? No. Why? Well, because your own 1040 instruction booklet says I can't. Let me show you what it says. See? Now, they're going, well, that ain't what it means. Oh. So, in other words, you're writing something in a book using the mail to mail it to me. That would be mail fraud. Huh. That's a felony. See, in other words, when I argue my argument, I don't argue the fact that I shouldn't do it, or I should do it, or I didn't do it, or maybe I should. I argue the fact if you're supposed to do one, wouldn't it tell you you should do one? Shouldn't it tell me that?
Yes.
Now, okay, my next question is, do you, by any chance, know what the word income is? Because you have to file a 1040 if you know what if you have income. Do you know what income is?
Not really. You explained it before, but based on their booklet, it doesn't really define it. It doesn't define income, really.
So wouldn't that be a good? Well, what? Do you have another reason? Yeah. See, 12A says, and did anybody look up Title 266012 tonight and read just the heading on Title 266012? And I'm going to show you who has to file the tax return, because there is somebody that has to. Is anybody going to look that up?
Does it say in a case where a receiver?
No. 60. Remember, you read it, 6012. Title 266012.
Code persons required to make returns of income.
Now, would you think that's important?
Yes.
So if you knew what 6012 meant, you would know whether or not you filed. Now, let me read you what it says. It says, no such license as a driver's license known to the law. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and then it gives you the case, Keith Brooks versus the state, and then it tells you. There's another one, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. This court has held that there is no such license known to the Texas law as a driver's license. Then it gives you the Frank John, and that's another case. There's 5 of these. And so what I've done is I printed 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Then it says right here, there being no such license as a driver's license known to the law, it follows that the information in charging the driver of a motor vehicle upon a highway without a license charges no offense. Then it tells you. So when I show that to the police officer, he looks at it and he gives me a ticket. Now he's making a legal determination. I don't care about anything else. See, does he have a right to make a legal determination when he pulls me over? Okay, now, see, well, were you driving without one? It's irrelevant whether I was driving without one or not. I may have one, but it says I don't have to, and I gave him this, and he wrote me a ticket for it. See, and that's what I use. And then when he wants to know who I am, I handed my passport. And if I'm in the area, they'll just let me go. I've created such a stink for them that the stink that I've created it's so ugly that they won't even let me in the courthouse anymore. When I go down there, I have to get the judge to come to the door, let me in, walk me into the courthouse, and then when I'm done, walk out. So they just dismiss everything that they throw at me just because of that. But that's what I do, and I print it on a 3x5 card, then I laminate it, and it's in my truck. Now, does anybody else have a question that I can do my best to answer? Okay, I'll assume that everybody has had their time to ask me a question. The thing that I'm trying to do is I am not a bright guy. I'm not educated or none of that. What I'm trying to show you is there's another way. There's another way to pick the tree. You don't have to stand on the ground. And so by me thinking the way I think, and with the other thing the way I think, what it is it creates an issue for them too. The one thing that I use on every single piece of paper that I send out, whether it's a notice, whether it's a lawsuit, whether it's an answer to a lawsuit, no matter what it is, I have a glossary page. And the glossary page that I have, and I say it's my glossary page, and it's really not. It's words that I need defined by law. So they're defined by the Constitution, Black's Law, Beauvier's, the Supreme Court. Those are the 4 places that I get them, and I define words that they're going to use: court, bar, attorney, file, form. It's not at all exhausting, but it's about 4 pages. But that goes with everything that I send out, and I make note in it. Any accusation that you make, anything that you have, there's a glossary page to make it to where we have a meeting of the minds. If you disagree with my definition, by all means, draw a line through it and redefine it. If you do not, that's going to be the definition used in this case 100% of the time. What that does is it puts them in a box. They can't say a shark isn't a fish. They can't say, well, no, it's a vacuum. Well, no, not because I don't have shark defined, but what happens is, we end up going to court answering a question because we know what they're asking, then we find out that's not what they're asking. I hope that made sense. But Ed has that, and if you got an email tonight to be here, you have access to that. I put most of my stuff. I just put it on there because people don't think the way I think, and I'm trying my best. Not that I don't have anything done in. The one thing that I do is I never bring me into it. It's never about me. And see, I found out years ago when you can challenge jurisdiction at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, I don't know another law you can do that with. So I figure since that's the case, it must be important. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Do you want me to name those 6 cases about driver's license?
You can. That'll be fine. I mean, you can.
First one is W. Lee Hassel versus Texas in 149 Texas Crime 333 194 SW, etc. It was in May 1946, which states that there's been no license to drive it, etc. Second one is in Hassel versus State. The third one is Hines versus State, Campbell versus State, Keith Brooks versus State, and then Frank John Callis versus State.
So that That's what I basically, if you can envision it. And I have it printed in red and blue and black. In other words, it's a nice. It's printed in a real nice font, and then it's on a 3x5 card, and then I have it laminated, and I just have it in my truck, in my pouch, or what do you call the door panel, whatever you want to call it. It's in my truck. If I get pulled over and they ask me for it, I hand that to them. See. Then they say, well, do you have a registration? I take my license plate that I took off there and stuck on the windshield that says registration. I have that laminated, and I hand that to them. Because, see, what they're asking for is they're asking for registration. They're talking insurance, but they don't say insurance, so I don't give it to them. Then when I get to court, I ask them, why would you ask me for something if you didn't want it? Why wouldn't you ask for driver's license? Well, you don't have to have one. I got it. See, and so I don't hammer I just hammer what it says. And then if the judge says to me, or he says, well, you have to have one in my court, you're guilty. Then what I do is I appeal it. When you appeal it, it goes straight to that court. So once it goes to that court, guess what? It's over. It's all over. That's why, so I don't really worry about it as much as maybe I should. But my main focus is the Internal Revenue Service. If anybody, before we go, does anybody have a Social Security that the IRS is telling the Social Security people to take their money? If so, I have a plan, or I have a process that I came up with that seems to work so far. I've done this year alone already. I've done 11, and I'm 11 for 11. So, do you have any questions? I'll go over how I do it.
Go ahead. Tell us how you do it.
Yes, we would like to know.
Well, I don't want you to know. You have to pay me to know. No. Okay. What I do, again, I don't tell them anything. I play the stupid card, and I really play that card well. I write a letter to the Social Security. The hardest thing you're going to have is the address. Look it up. In other words, nothing is just given to you. So you look it up. In other words, if you live in Texas, the Social Security Department might be out of Washington. Probably not. It's probably out of Austin. So you find it. What I do is I write them a letter, and I say, my name is, my address is, my Social Security number is, I'm supposed to get $2,000 in my check, but I'm only getting $800. There's $1,200 missing. I don't understand. Would you please help me and tell me this? Now, it might take 3 or 4 letters. I don't understand. Please help me. Would you tell me why is my Social Security check short? They will tell you. They find I'm like a burr in the saddle. I'm going to irritate you until you tell me. That's just my nature. I can't help it. If you got a rock in your shoe, you're going to stop and take the rock out because I'm just going to keep hurting your foot. So eventually, what the Social Security Department tells me always is, well, we're doing what the IRS says. Once they tell me that, if the bank tells me that, it's over. Stick a fork in them, because then I go back and I say, oh, what did the IRS say? See, now, if they don't tell me, I'm going to follow suit again, and I tell them on every time. If you don't tell me, I'm going to use everything. I'm going to use every available object that I have, included but not limited to a lawsuit, on the grounds. My check's supposed to be $1,800. It's $1,200. $600 a month is short, and I tell them that, and so I don't get into my IRS. I don't assume anything. I make them tell me. Once they tell me they're doing what the IRS says, then I go back and say, oh, I believe you. What did the IRS say? You're telling me that the IRS said it, but you're not telling me what they said. So how do you know what they said is what they said? And then I just never stop. Eventually, they'll tell me the IRS said, now I got them. Because what they're saying is at the bank, the bank says it the same way. Well, the IRS said you have a levy. See, I don't have a levy. I have a notice of levy. So then I share my notice of levy with them. Or I ask them to send me the levy first. I make them give me the levy. Once they give me the levy that I have for them to take my money, or the lien, either one, I then go and pull that lien or that levy, and it says notice of. Now I've got them. Because, see, the argument that I put forth is they're using a counterfeit security to damage me. The lady that said she wanted to know what I was doing, do you know how much a counterfeit security is worth? Can you tell me what a counterfeit security is worth? Can anybody here on here?
Do not know.
Okay. Do you know what a counterfeit security is?
Not really.
All right. I have one stock of General Motors. I copy 3 more, so now I'm selling 4. How many legitimate ones do I have?
1.
Okay, but I sold 4, so 3 of them are what?
Counterfeit.
There you go. How much is a counterfeit security worth?
Nothing.
That's not true. Bernie Madoff is sitting in a cell for 25 to life. That's what I tell the Social Security. See, so I tell the Social Security, well, you told me you had a levy, and what you sent me. See, I try to make them tell me what it is. Once they tell me what it is, now I got them. Because, see, they're saying, well, the IRS said you had a levy. Well, why does it say notice of levy on there? Is that the same? See, what I've done, I've isolated the Social Security Administration by themselves. When I go to the bank will say, well, the reason we took your money, or if you have your money in a, let's say, a TransUnion or a Transcontinental or a Scots Trade or whatever, Geico or whatever they are, and they say that's your retirement, and all of a sudden your retirement goes down, and you ask them, well, we have to. What do you mean you have to? I'm supposed to have this much. I act like I'm an idiot. I know that they got a notice of levy against me. They will, without fail, they just for some reason say, well, we have to do what the IRS says. Oh, what's the IRS saying? Tell me what they're saying. So they're going to say, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to argue anything else. I'm going to set them up to take them to court because that's my account. They said the IRS said. They won't tell me what they said, so how do I know what they said hasn't been fixed? So once they release what they said that you have a lien. Oh, I got a lien. Well, guess what? I've already pulled the notice of lien. They show me what they have. That's all I want to see. Once I see it, and they call it a lien, I now can get the SEC involved. What we did was we sued the IRS, and we won big time. And we won in 2009. You can go online and look for it, but you can't see the case because it's sealed. But what we sued the IRS for is using counterfeit securities. If you're really interested in it, I can get you the paper on it. I can get you some things on it where you can read what the court said. And that's about all you can get because that's all they'll let you have. But what I try to do, see, by asking, I ask until they give it to me. They just shut me up. Once they give it to me, they're 100% of the time incorrect. So what I've done is I've asked them to give me something, and they finally gave it to me. Once they give it to me, I take anything they say can and will be used against them. I take what they say, and I use the appropriate meanings from that point on. Because if the bank has taken your check and the bank is your fiduciary, then what are they doing taking the IRS's word for it? The other question that I started asking, once the bank told me Well, what we're doing is we're doing what the IRS says. The question is, you gave my check to the IRS, but it was a Treasury check. Is the United States Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service the same exact entity? They don't know what to say. Well, we had a bank last week said, yeah, they're the same. So guess what we're doing? We're not suing them for the money back. We're suing them because they said the Treasury and the IRS is the same, and I want to see it because I wrote a letter. We actually wrote a letter to the Treasury asking, is the Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service the same exact entity? They may work with the same people, but Pontiac and Oldsmobile, they're both General Motors, and they're both fixed on the same, they're put together on the same assembly line, but they're not the same. See? If you have an identical twin brother or an identical twin sister, if you cut your finger, she doesn't bleed or he doesn't bleed. So there's nothing on the planet that's exactly the same. So because of my screwed up thinking, the bank now wants to deal. They want to know what they can do to get us off of their back. So what we're telling them is, well, you took my $40,000. I want 115 times. I want 1,400,000. Well, they're saying, no, that's okay. We're not going to get that. But see, if I ask for 40, they're not going to give us 40 either. See, so what we're doing is we're getting a lot of negotiations. I hope that makes sense. And see, because what we're doing is we're finding the weakest link in the chain. Now, I want to ask one more question. I have a chain that's a 100,000-pound chain. It can lift 100,000 pounds in a vertical lift, and it will hold up. I got one link in that chain that can only lift 100 pounds because the link is bad. How much weight can my 100,000-pound chain lift? Go to *6, and if you don't mind answering.
100.
All right, how much?
100.
Okay, so why would you fight with a 100,000-pound link? Go right to the 100-pound link and start hammering it with a hammer because we can break the link. So, if the IRS is involved, they're the strongest links. This is me speaking and me alone. I never go after the IRS because the IRS, you can't beat them because they got all the judges bought and paid for. So what I do is, if my company's taking my money, I'm going to be very nice there because I can't afford to lose my pay. So what I do is I get everything I can and go to the payroll and ask them, well, here, let me see what they got. And then I take my core order to them. I take when they say I got a levy, I take them. It's a notice of levy. I try to do everything that I can so that they'll release it and give it to me. We've been real successful. We've had since January, we've had about 11 companies, 12 companies that have actually taken the lock-in letter and reversed the lock-in letter, because what happens is we put the company in a position where when they call the IRS for clarification, they don't call them back. Because they can't call them back because we've got them dead to rights. So I never attack the IRS directly. I attack the weakest link in the chain. So if you have a retirement account and the retirement account has released part of it or some of it, or they're not giving you all of it, and you want to try it, let Ed know. He'll get a hold of me. I'll get in contact with you, and I'll give you the rest of what I'm doing and how to set up the retirement account, your Social Security, because it's your money. And then if you want to know how I've done the Social get a checking account without a Social Security number, I gave you the outline of it. But what basically we're doing is we're not asking them, I don't want to give it to you. I don't have to. The law says I don't have to. I already know it says that, but they're still doing it. So I ask, say, what's the reason for it? so far, 95%, maybe 98% of the banks say our policy is you can't have it. Oh, okay. So then I write a letter because they've already gave it to me. They've already given me the they've already given me the law department, whether it's a private, if it's in that bank, and all banks have a legal department, even if it's an independent. They may use a law firm, which is fine, because then what happens is I put them in a position where I just keep asking the bank questions, and I don't go in there and beat my chest and act stupid. What I do is I just ask them, I'm confused, I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. And so I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if I don't. I just really would like to know. There's no reason I want to know. I just like to know. And most people, they'll just run off at the mouth, like I did to that IRS agent. Okay, shut up, get out of here. Well, when he told me to shut up, that was the wrong thing to say, because I just clapped my jaws all the way to the door, and we haven't been back. And that's basically what they'll do for you. They'll pretty much give you what you need. And then once they do, see, anything they say can or will be used against them. That's just how I'm operating. And the other thing that I think, for those of you that hasn't gone to the tax court, if you get a hold of Ed, I'll give you as many names as you want to. You go online and look at. Just go online and look at what we've gotten, and envision having that. And by doing that, it will give you a understanding of. I go first. I ask first. Once they tell me, if they tell me incorrectly, then I go in there with their own what they've already said. See. And what doesn't fly with me is, I'm taking your Social Security and I'm not telling you why. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It's my money, so why wouldn't you give it to me? It's mine. Tell me why you're taking it at least. See. So once they tell me, now I've got something they can't say. We didn't say that. Well, we didn't mean that. Well, that's what you said. And so I do the same to the IRS. What I do is I ask the IRS, what you're doing is you're doing this, and why? And for those of you that have a notice of lien at the county, there's a form that you can fill out. It's a 12277 form. Fill it out and mail it to the IRS. They'll come back and say you don't qualify because of 6332J. You can already see where I'm going. Well, wait a minute. You got a notice of lien filed in the county, and that's illegal. What you just did is 6332J has nothing to do with it. I'm going to keep building it till I get a case when I have to file my complaint, whether it's with TIGDA, whether it's with the IRS commissioner, whether it's with the district director in Washington. They're saying. What they're saying is, see, here's what they said, here's what your Title 26 says. They're diametrically opposed. So they're rogue, they're off the hinge, they're fraudulent. And see, when I get a letter from them, they'll say, you're asking a fraud. It's frivolous. Your question is frivolous. Then I go back and say, I agree 100% with you. It's frivolous on the grounds. You said 6332J, and so you're frivolous. So you fix it, or you're admitting using fraud as a legal tool. See, everything they say, I use against them. I hope that helped. Does that help anybody?
It helps me, Kerry.
Wonderful.
I've got a quick question before we sign off. I'm probably getting toward the end of it tonight, but what about mortgage loans with banks when you well qualify as far as the amount of income and all your credit scores and everything are great, and they refuse to give you a mortgage because you don't file a 1040? I tell them I file a statement. I tell them I file a statement with the IRS saying, here's how much money I brought in. And I tell them I don't want to contribute to the presidential campaign and a few other basics on there as my statement. And they say, well, you don't have a 1040. I can't give you a mortgage.
There. Once they give you that, then here's what I'm going to, again, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. Download Regulation Z. Regulation Z, that's the Truth in Lending. In the Truth in Lending, the tax return has nothing to do with anything. That's both Federal Reserve and Congress's law to the banks on their lending process. Now, the other thing that I do after you get what you need, what you do is go to the court, tax court. If you have your tax court order, see it says
yes, I do.
That it says the IRS doesn't have jurisdiction. The commissioner says that. And so what I do is I build my argument not around the tax court, around the commissioner, around the 6001, 6011, 6012A, and the regulations. See, that's what I build. Then I go to Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. And in there, it doesn't mention anything about a 1040 filing. So what's happened is I try to make the bank say, well, our policy says, and normally they'll say, or something similar to that. So, again, here we go again. See, now their policy is diametrically opposed to Regulation Z, which is the Truth in Lending. Does that make sense?
Regulation Z, and how would I look just that regulation up? Is that in a title then, or no? It's not a title.
Just are you in front of your computer?
I am in front of my computer.
Go to your Google or your search engine and type in the Regulation Z, and it'll pop right up. And if it doesn't, let Ed know, and I'll send send him and tell him that. And I'll send it to him, or he can, if you don't mind, be having your.
It comes up as let's see here. It looks like 12 CFR.
There you go. See,
1026 Regulation Z in parentheses.
There you go. That is it.
Okay.
Ain't that something? Regulation Z is the Truth in Lending.
Yep. It's right there in front of me now.
There you go. And I'm not telling you have to memorize it. Go through, and if you download it in a PDF, go up there. There's a search bar. There's a search
for the 1040, yeah. There
you go. Tax return. It's not in there. See? Now, when you go there, you can say, the funny thing about it is, I'm an idiot, but would you here's Regulation Z. It's a Truth in Lending. You're saying I have to have a 1040 form. The IRS says I don't. See? Now, do you see what I just done? Do you see what I just done?
I knew it was out there. Yeah, I knew it was out there somewhere.
Now let me ask you a question, okay?
Okay.
If I stick you in the back of the neck with a pencil, will that hurt you? Will that hurt?
Will that hurt who?
See how simple that was? There's Regulation Z right there. See, if you would have said, well, never mind, I'm not going to use that question. See, I just ask questions, and I ask them like I'm stupid, and the bank would just roll over for me. See, that's what when I go to them and I ask them, I say, wow, why can't I have? Why do you want my Social Security number? They're not going to say, well, because they always say over 90% of the time, well, it's our policy. Now, let me tell you how I learned this. The first time I did that, I went to the lady in the bank, and she said, well, our policy says, I said, well, wait a minute. My policy is when I come to the bank, I unzip my pants and let my sausage hang out at half-mast. I said, that's my policy. She says, you can't do that. I said, why not? She said, because you'll be violating the decency laws. I said, oh, well, here, let me show it to you. Maybe it's not indecent. And, buddy, the security came, and they ushered me out. that's when I knew I had them. See, because if my policy is that I get to walk in there with my pants unzipped and part of my anatomy hanging out, they say I can't do that. Why can't I do that? Well, because you'll be breaking the law. Now, just to show you how ridiculous I have become, I was told I couldn't go into a store without a mask. So what I did is the guy at the door said, well, if I wear a mask, I get claustrophobic. I said, and what happens is I get boils and blisters on my penis. I said, so the only way I can get around that is to let it hang out and let the air, it keeps it from doing it. He looked at me and says, well, you can't go in there that way. I said, well, you're going to have to pick. Do I get to go in with my mask? I have to go in with my mask, or do I have to keep my pants zipped up? Your pick. And I just stood there. He said, just go. So I went in. See, what happens is because I don't think like normal. I think outside the box. So I went to, what is the name of that store? I went to the dollar store. And the dollar store said, well, we're not letting anybody in without a mask. I said, oh, okay. So I went to Party City, which is, 2 blocks down the road. I went to Party City, and I got one of those Lone Ranger masks, a little black mask that goes over my eyes. I went back, and I put that little Lone Ranger mask on. He looked at me and says, what? You said I had to have a mask, so this is the one they had. And he says, I said, so were you lying to me then, or you're lying to me now? So he let me in. I mean, I felt ridiculous walking around the store with a little black mask on, see? But see, the thing that I try to do is I ask the questions to where they tell me. Once they tell me, I then do what they say.
Did you see that Alyssa Milano crocheted a mask for herself and showed it off on their Twitter feed or whatever?
No, I have not.
Crocheted mask with holes and everything that crochet has. Right. She was on Twitter with it, and she's this one that's never mind. It's getting off this subject, but yeah, But what I'm trying to.
Hello, Terry. We're up. Time's up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, if you will, read that Regulation Z. You don't have to memorize it, but know it well enough that when you go in there and they say, "What about a 1040?" You can say, "Well, according to Regulation Z, and before you do it, get her name." Write down the things and see, because when you say, well, here's what we're going, then they nut up and they don't talk to you anymore. So what you need to get is get what you're going to need to follow through. In other words, get the attorney's name, get the law firm, get the manager's name of that branch, get the home office. In other words, at Chase Bank, it's in New York, so you can't just go down here to the local one. See, you got to get what you need, and then when you say, well, here's Regulation Z, and what I did is I got about 15 of them. That way when I go in there and they say that, I hand it to them. That's what I use. But anyways, what that will do is you'll be using what they said, and what they said is wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I can see already that you're not going to find 1040 anywhere in the search terms on this thing as I'm just scrolling through while we're talking here.
See? So I hope that helps you.
Yep. Well, under the ADA and HIPAA Acts, I'm not required to disclose any or my medical conditions that don't allow me to wear a mask. So, fuck y'all. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. You speak.
I will not wear a mask in public. Yeah, I will not be wearing a mask in public unless they put handcuffs on me.
Right. And then I'll be wearing handcuffs. No, I hope tonight's call was informative, and I hope tonight's call helped somebody.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, folks. Our next call will be June the 9th. Okay. I sure thank you for coming in, calling tonight.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you, Ed.